Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. Super excited about today's conversation. And you guys already know we got another guest on today's episode. But before we introduce our guest today, do us a huge favor and share this podcast episode with 2 or 3 Latinos that needs to hear the Latin Wealth Podcast and that needs to hear this information and this conversation today. It's going to be a great, fruitful conversation about business, entrepreneurship, life, and whatnot. And you guys definitely want to check this episode out and just share this episode with somebody. Go ahead and hit those 3 dots in the corner, text it to somebody, share it in a group message, Facebook, whatever platform you use. Go ahead and share this episode with a couple other people out there. And with that being said, we're going to introduce our guest for today. He is a Latino serial entrepreneur, motivational speaker, owner of multiple different businesses. He's also a business coach, and he is the founder of Scalp Solution, a renowned non-surgical hair loss studio. And it's pretty much what he's most well known for on social media. Welcome to the podcast, David Santiago. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
What's going on, Chris? Thank you so much, first and foremost, for sharing the platform with me. This is something that is an absolute necessity for our community and our culture. And I appreciate, what you're doing and the message that you're pushing forward. And, thank you for sharing that platform with me.
100%. Much love. And it's funny, before we get into your story, we were talking before we hit record about, living in America and just taking things for granted and always wanting more. And man, what I wanted to ask you before we hit record is like, how do you deal with that? With you having multiple businesses, and we'll get into all that. How do you deal with like, I'm good with what I have, or how do I continue to grow and push? Like, where's that balance at for you, especially as, you got a family and whatnot? Where's that balance for you?
So I went through an experience that I was fortunate enough to go through where some people might think it was not as fortunate. And I'm a veteran. I'm a Marine veteran, combat twice. And once you get separated from what we have available to us here, the resources here, and you get stripped from all that, and now you're in a third world country and you don't have any of that. And now you come back home, you learn to take those things that you used to take for granted. And now you just like, listen, I have all these resources here in front of me. I need to take advantage of it. So having experienced that now, having all that in front of me is just like, man, I gotta capitalize off all of this, all the opportunities that I have. There's absolutely no excuses.
100%. And that's fun. That's crazy because look, that's the main reason why when immigrants come to America, when people born in different countries, they come into America, they probably have the same exact mentality. Like, I don't have none of these resources, or I can't do this, or I can't speak about this in my country. I got to give it all while I'm here. Right. So
yeah, sure. And I'm pretty sure you've come across friends that have migrated here to this country and they're incredibly successful. And they look at us and they go, man, you guys are born to this and you didn't capitalize off of this. Like, what are you doing wrong? So like, it was a good experience to be stripped from that, to then come back to it. And it happened at a very early age. I was 21 years old. So I was like, okay, that was my life lesson. I mean, there were several for going overseas and being in combat at war, but that was one of the main ones for me.
I love that. So let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about your background and your upbringing, right? If I'm not mistaken, you're from the Bronx, right?
I am originally from the South Bronx. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about it.
So I am originally from the South Bronx. I was born and raised on 156th Street. I am a product of Jackson Projects, something I'm very proud of, something that definitely built me and prepared me for, life, whether it just was as an entrepreneur, just in general, just growing up in that culture, to a single mother, my mom, Evelise, shout out to her for taking on that daunting task of being the, single mom, raising a knucklehead kid in the South Bronx trying to keep me straight in the line. I went to Cardinal Hayes High School. After high school, I went to Pace University. I did a year in Pace University, and I just felt like I needed to be removed from the environment because I didn't feel like I was going down the right path. I was hanging. I don't like saying that I was hanging out with the wrong people, because some of those people are still my friends. But at the time, we were moving towards anything positive. So I was like, I need to remove myself from the environment. I need to be not only challenged, but I needed some discipline in my life. So I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years. And then, I came back out. Throughout my career in the Marine Corps, I was also a licensed barber. Like, that was my first hustle. By trade, I'm a barber, and that's how I eventually started gravitating into the hair loss industry. But I was a barber. Came out, did my time in the service. Was retired from there. Came back out, and I started pursuing my entrepreneurial dreams, because I was like, it's about that time. I put the fear to the side and invested in myself. And that's when I started my very first business, which was Scalp Solutions, which that just opened me up into the entrepreneurial world and, understanding business, finances. And then that led me to going down all the other avenues, the other businesses that I now have.
100%. And you mentioned something, you said fear, putting that fear to the side. Talk to us about that. What type of fear did you have, and how were you able to push that to the side?
I mean, fear is, if you look at, I don't know what are the exact statistics, but they say it's like about 98% of people that want to pursue, entrepreneurialism don't do it because of fear. And I spent a big chunk of my life. I'll tell you what, I'm 41 years old now. I was 35 years old when I decided, like, you know what, I got to take these dreams that I have in my head and I got to put them, like, I got to start taking action. And I wasn't taking action because of the fear, because everyone is scared of failure. And then once you start taking that journey, you start realizing that it's not really a failure. It's a lesson. And it's a lesson that you need in order to better yourself as a professional, as an entrepreneur. So, like, yeah, man, I had to come to terms with, like, listen, if I keep being scared to pursue these dreams, I'm just gonna live my life as what if. And I never wanted to do that. Hence why I joined the Marine Corps, because I was always like, I don't want to grow up and be like, you have so many friends like, yeah, I wanted to join the Marines, but I never did. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I try to take that same ideology and apply that to just like the remainder of my life. Was like, I need to put the fear to the side. Let me go for it. I don't want to live that life of what if.
I love that. So you're cutting hair. You probably got clients. Are you at a shop, or do you have your own shop? Where are you cutting hair at?
So, I mean, I was cutting hair. I was cutting hair on ships. I was cutting hair
everywhere.
I was cutting hair everywhere. While I was in the Marine Corps, I was cutting hair out of my barracks. Like, the hair was like my very first hustle. I've been cutting hair since I was 13 years old. I was working in a barbershop at 15, and then started working at a barbershop where I had a partner. And then I eventually gravitated out of that and just started doing my own thing, cutting hair. And then I got introduced to men's hair systems, which is a wig.
I know. Talk about it. I'm like, the reason why I brought that up, because I'm like, you cutting hair, right? Everybody, like all men typically growing up, you don't hear about guys getting into scalp solution or wigs and units and stuff like that. So what was that thing that sparked your interest? Like, you sitting there cutting hair and you heard something, or you researching and you come across this new maybe industry and something that's not spoken about? Like, what made you jump into that side of it?
So it was a combination. As a barber, I started picking up a lot of momentum because I started practicing with all these different enhancements, because I would get a lot of clients, right? You come in and they want a fresh hairline, but now their hairline's receding a little bit. So they're like, yo, Dave, is there anything that you could do? So, I'm cutting hair, and I know we got hair fibers, there's different sprays, dyes. So, I start coming up with these little concoctions, and I'm able to now like replicate a hairline. It's not a real hairline, but it looks for like 2 or 3 days, right? And that's what got, that was I without even wanting to, like, that's what got me going into the hair loss industry, because now I started getting more clients that just wanted to do enhancements and hairlines more so than worrying about getting, your traditional haircut, traditional fade. So once I started seeing that I had so many clients that they were, experiencing hair loss, it led to other guys coming like, hey, Dave, I'm experiencing hair loss in my crown. Is there anything you could do for me? X, Y, Z. So then I just started exploring, research and see what was available. And I came across the cranial prosthesis, which is the medical term for it, but it essentially is wigs. So I was like, you know what? Let me learn this, because, there's a lot of guys out there that could benefit from this. And I was also looking at the numbers, and I was like, wow, I could make anywhere from $800 to $1,200 for installing, a wig and making this thing look official. So
per session, it's only one session that you come in and you charge them that much.
So yeah, so the way it works is you order the hair, right? The system, the wig, and to install that, you're looking at, depending on the quality of the hair, anywhere from $800 to $1,200. And then that wig, if the client maintains it correctly, washes it correctly and does its maintenance every 2 weeks, they have to come in to see me so that I could remove it, clean the adhesive, and cut their hair again, which that'll be like about $175. So they won't pay the $800 to $1,200 every single time. That's anywhere every 2 to 3 months, depending on how they maintain the hair system. So that was my introduction there to the hair loss world. And then I also started experiencing hair loss. So now I was like, okay, I got to do something about this too. So I tried the hair systems. It wasn't comfortable for me because it didn't fit my, my lifestyle, and you have to maintain a certain lifestyle. And I was like, you can't be sweating, because if you sweat, that thing could just peel off. It could be an embarrassing, embarrassing moment. So I started looking for other solutions for myself aside from a hair transplant. I came across scalp micropigmentation, and when I found out about it and I did my research, I knew that it was a game changer. And at the time, it wasn't picking up the momentum that it has now. So I wanted to learn it off the top, but I was like, I need this done. So after I got the procedure done on myself and I saw how it made me feel, I knew, I was like, oh, hold on a second. Like, if this is how I feel and I feel like my confidence just came back, and I didn't feel like I was a man that was lacking, that confidence, but I felt like I was just supercharged. I was like, I got to learn this, and I got to be able to, offer this service to other men, because I could only imagine how many other men are out there that feel like me or worse, and, just want their hairline back.
100%. And, what stood out to me, from that story and that situation is, I love that you kept your options open. Right. You were very fluid and you're willing to learn and whatnot. And a lot of people, when they're in a business, they're just so hell bent on just doing this one thing, and their opportunities are passing them by. But you had that mindset, which is very important, to look around you, see like how else can I improve the service for my client? And that just led you down to a rabbit hole of discovering a new industry. So I love the fact that you just kept it open-minded. You're willing to adjust, pivot, which is very important in business. And again, a lot of us, we're hammering at the same business, the same idea for years and years, when we could have been pivoting a long time ago.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was definitely something, like you said, I ended up going down a rabbit hole, and it wasn't intentional. Like, I just legitimate was looking for better solutions until I ended up finding something, and obviously having some passion for it. And then when I saw the demand, right, because now you start looking up statistics, and I saw that there was a demand for it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stick to this, even though I had a whole bunch of other ideas that was still fermenting. I was like, I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna really see what I could do with this. And then if I could make this hair loss thing seem cool and create a nice little buzz, especially on social media, then I just felt like I could go into any industry. Because if I could make it happen in the hair loss industry, I'm gonna make it happen in any industry.
Yeah. So you jump into the industry. What's like the first step for you? What's like the startup cost? Like, what is there any equipment that you need to get? And talk to us, like, even I'm sure you had formal clients that you're like, hey, this is a new procedure or product that I have. Would you be open to trying it? How were people receptive of that?
So in the beginning, it was a 3-day class, right, where you receive your fundamentals training. You learn, the anatomy of the skin, the scalp. You learn the technique. On the third day, you get a model where you actually, implement the technique on, which that's kind of is nerve wracking. Just think about it. You're like, man,
For
I'm about,
sure.
because essentially this is a cosmetic tattoo. So if you
Mm.
don't apply yourself, you can destroy this person.
Mhm.
So we already got someone that's already experiencing some sort of complex because of hair loss. Now you're going to put something on their scalp
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
that looks like a straight up tattoo. You're going to ruin them. So it was a 3-day course. I got my basic. And then after that, I already had like clientele and everything from the barbering. So what I did was, that for me at the time was a $5,000 investment, which was
Mm.
my basic fundamentals training.
Mhm.
$5,000 investment. And then I found me a nice little 71 square foot room that I was renting
Mhm.
for $350.
Okay.
Got me a nice little chair and everything to set myself up. And what I did was to get the momentum going, because I knew it was a service that was still new and no one was just gonna go, yeah, sure, man, put a
Yeah, yeah.
put a hairline tattoo on me. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't charge it because the going rates, it could go anywhere from 2,500, 3,500, 4,500
Mm.
bucks. So I was
Mm.
like, this is still new. Not a lot of people aware about it. I got to create some awareness. So what I did was I offered the service for 10 people for free in
Mm.
exchange
For
for
review.
photos, reviews,
Yeah.
and a testimony.
Smart.
And brother, when I made that announcement, within like 4 hours, I
Mm.
had like 20 people that were like, "What? I'm in, Dave. If this is gonna, if it's gonna look like whatever the photos you just posted, I'm in." My
Mm.
brother, I brought those people in, and I did, I took my time. I started posting the photos. I started posting the photos up, and then with word of mouth, man, it just took off. And I was just kind of like, my first month, even, after I did my first 10 for free, like the following 10, I charged them like $1,500. I was like, let me see if
Mm.
somebody's gonna give me $1,500 for this.
Mhm.
And they did. And I was just like, yo, you know how much hair I gotta cut
Yeah.
to make $1,500? So
A
that
lot of
that
heads.
I knew, like, that momentum right there. I was like, okay, now I got to keep this up. And how do I turn this into like a professional business and build a brand around it?
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal because you just broke down a very simple strategy for people that are jumping into a new industry or a new business, how to get clients. You just literally broke it down right there. Um, Oftentimes if you were to come off the top and say, hey, I'm charging $1,500, $2,000 for this service, I'm not sure how many people you would have got. Maybe you would have got 10, maybe you would have got 20, who knows. But oftentimes when people don't know about you, if they don't see any reviews or anything like that, they probably won't, they're not going to be as comfortable making that investment. But if you say, hey, it's a free service, just come in, I'm trying to help you out, that's the easy way to get people in the door. And then from there, you said, hey, let me see if who's willing to pay 1,500, right? And then from there, you're like, okay, people are willing to pay this. Let me see if people are willing to pay 2,000, 3,000. And that's how you raise the price to where you feel like, you charge what you're worth or what your time is worth, right? So you just broke down a phenomenal way to get clients in the door and to really jumpstart your business. And you also said you had clientele. So you probably reached out to everybody. Like you said, you posted it on social. So you had essentially the leads already to, reach out to.
Yeah, essentially, I just leveraged everything that I already had, whether it was, clients, or
Mm-hmm.
just, relationships that I already had, and just having friends that I knew, could benefit from the services. And then just
Mm-hmm.
real quick, I'll just backtrack with the free, right? Because you see how
Yeah.
you say that's kind of like a blueprint, and it, depending on who you talk to, it's so funny because I hear a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes, especially a lot of people that I deal with, or they want to come to me for advice. Where when
Mm-hmm.
I tell them like, listen, man, I offered my services for free, like
For
that's what
free.
jump started me, and they're like, nah, I can't do that. I know my worth, X, Y, Z, and it's kind of like, okay, I understand, you know your worth, but you haven't proven that yet to
Mm-hmm.
anyone or your clients. So you got to build up a portfolio, especially if you're looking to get into an industry like this, which can be incredibly lucrative, but you have to build a portfolio first, and not everybody's gonna, you have to establish that trust, and people are gonna want to see some before and after photos. So like for me, even though it was a little challenging, because you want to make money, right? You want to get your return on investment for the training, and now you're paying $350 for an office, and you're like, man, now I'm offering this for free. Like, how am I gonna cover my overhead? So for me, it was like, it was more so like not just making that investment for the training, but I also needed to do those calculations and make sure that I had the capital for the overhead. I gave myself 8 months of, you know what, I can work for free for 8 months, build my portfolio, because I had some money stashed on the side where I could pay my rent. But putting out my services there for free definitely is what helped catapult my career.
I love that. And then how long is each session? Like if a guy comes in, I know it depends on like what their situation going on, but like typically on average, how long do these sessions last for?
So on average, for me right now, I got it down to like about an hour and a half easily. So like,
wow,
we have about a Norwood scale. We utilize a Norwood scale. So you got like a Norwood 1 goes all the way up to 7 to being the most severe. And I also got it, done myself. Like that's not a real hairline. This is scalp micropigmentation too. So I got it down to like about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and this would be like a full head of hair. But again, like this is what I do on a daily. So
yeah,
when I first started, it was taking me about 3 or 4 hours, which was still worth it when you're looking at what what you're getting paid
compared to a barber. I mean, you're spending probably almost the same amount of time as you cutting hair to doing this treatment, and you're probably making like 10x more.
So you figure per client, let's say if I had someone that came in with the severe hair loss, a Norwood 7, you're looking at, that's a $3,500 job. It takes 3 sessions to get it done, because it's done in stages, right? And we can talk about that a little later. It takes 3 sessions, but you're looking at about 6 hours in time, and that's with mapping out the hairline and everything. So now if you took those $3,500 and you divided that into those hours, that hourly rate, like you're not making that in a barbershop. That might be your daily rate, maybe your weekly rate at a barbershop, opposed to hourly. So like
not even house calls, I would say.
No, because you figure right now you're looking at maybe about $450 an hour. And I mean, like, let's think about other professionals that are making, like my lawyer doesn't even make that. So when she was helping me out, put stuff together, she was like, yo, bro, like
hold up.
She was like, hourly, you're making, like $125 more than I am doing this hair loss tattoo stuff. So like, it is incredibly lucrative.
That's crazy. Wow. All right. So you start to build some momentum. You knock out the first 10 free clients, and you got people that are interested. Where do you go from there? How do you scale, or like, what was the next thing for you? I'm pretty sure one of the things was like getting the timing right, like getting it from 3 hours to an hour and a half per session. But what was like the next thing once you started building momentum?
So the next thing for me was, I was like, all right, this is it, man. I'm in the hair loss industry, but I didn't want to just be in the hair loss industry and only know scalp micropigmentation. So what I did was I went to school and I got certified as a trichologist, which is the science of hair and scalp, because I didn't just have clients coming in telling me, hey, I want my hairline. Now they're asking, hey, I'm experiencing some thinning. What's this? Do you know what it is? So it was kind of like, I didn't even know how to identify, certain skin conditions, like seborrheic dermatitis, or if it was dry scalp, if it was, if it was just excess sebum, XYZ. So I was like, hold on a second, because if I'm really going to go down this road, I need to really establish myself as an authority. So I went, got the schooling, and then I just continued to work on my craft, bring down my time, so that I could not pump out my clients, but it was like, instead of doing 1 client a day, I'd like to be able to work on 2 or 3,
yeah.
Not feel rushed. So it was just, perfecting the craft, and establishing myself as an authority while working on the brand. Like I was like, how do I establish Scalp Solutions as a brand and also working on an exit strategy, right? Because you all know, like, you don't just start a business to just start the business, make the money, and you don't set yourself up for your exit strategy. So I was also developing an exit strategy as well. So, I developed training. I put it not as a franchising model, but more so as a licensing. And then I was like, how do I make myself more marketable so that if a company, if one of these brokers decided, you know what, we want to take this right off of him. So I went down the trademark route. I'm so grateful that I learned about that, because I was like, Scalp Solutions is such a broad name and it captures so much within the hair loss industry. And when I saw that it wasn't trademark, I was like, this is crazy. So I trademarked it, and then I was like, how am I going to make myself more, how do I put more value into the business? So then we also started the product line as well, because now I'm doing hair loss, so it only makes sense to provide a shampoo and a conditioner and a hair growth oil under the Scalp Solutions umbrella, so that it was more appealing if and when a broker came and said, hey, we want to purchase Scalp Solutions, where it's kind of like, all right, well, here you go. Here's the blueprint. We have a franchise model. Oh, and it also comes with products XYZ, like getting the full system. So to me, was just like, how am I going to get the maximum amount of money out of this? Not just from doing the procedure, just like, how do I package this up into a nice deal and just push it off to someone else?
Yeah, 100%. So speaking about exit strategy, in 2022, a private equity firm, one of the biggest and largest hair loss brands, they offered to buy Scalp Solution for 8 figures, and you declined it.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that, man. That's crazy. I mean, so 2022, what year did you jump into the industry?
So I got into the industry in 2017.
2017. So that's very recent. So I mean, you were just, barbering, and you were trying to figure out entrepreneurship and whatnot. And then within a few years, you got an equity firm offering you 8 figures for your business, and you declined it. Talk to us about that, man.
Yeah, and it's that's so crazy. Like, people now, and I'm pretty sure the listeners are gonna be like, "You're crazy! You did what?" But it actually made sense, because with my team, and when I say my team, my lawyers and the people that consult me, financially, we already had numbers established once we started packaging this as a franchise. So
you knew your number,
what the potential was, and prior to having received that offer, we were trying to get a deal with two celebrities that kind of wanted to just get themselves into a new business, and they were going to leverage social media to put us out there. So we were going to give, a 20% equity, which was a high number, but what they were willing, what we were going to get on the receiving end, we already did the numbers. So we knew that although 8-figure, offer sounded great, we did the numbers and it was well above 9 if it worked out correctly. So it was a quick shutdown. So, they wanted, they offered 10 million for Scalp Solutions. And again, I'm grateful that I learned early on. I did a mentorship with Damon John, and he taught me about trademarking, how important it was. And if you really wanted to be respected as a business, you had to you had to own it. It had to be yours. So the name Scalp Solutions alone was what they were really going after. And when they found out that it was in fact a hair loss service and all the other stuff that I had in place, it was kind of like, oh, this is a gimme. And we turned it down which was crazy, because I knew this was going to happen, right? And I don't want to be ignorant here, but a part of me was like, they just saw the name Santiago and were like, nah, we're just going to offer him 8. Like, he's going to take it, like this guy, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%.
I immediately, that's what I thought, because I was just like, they're just looking at this. They saw Santiago and they were like, listen, bro, this guy's just
going to take it.
He's going to take it. And we didn't, because, my mentor told me, 10 mil is life-changing money. And even though that was the offer that they made us, I knew after taxes, XYZ,
Yeah.
it wasn't going to be that number anymore. And luckily, not luckily, like we already knew we wasn't going to accept it. But once we started doing the research on the company that hit us up, and this is an overseas company, they're from Japan. They have brought out a huge brand. Remember Hair Club for Men? Remember seeing the commercial, Hair Club? I'm not only the president, I'm also a client.
Oh, yeah.
So that gentleman, his name is Cy Sterling, right? Rest in peace. He died maybe like about 2 years ago. He sold, they purchased his company for 37 million, which is a phenomenal number. 37 million. They turned around, put a little money behind it, and within 4 months sold it again for guess how much?
Don't say 100.
115 million.
Wow.
So I found
they know what they're doing when they offered you the 10.
Absolutely.
They were trying to turn around and offer or sell it for 50 or something like, or 80
Absolutely.
or something
easily.
crazy.
Now, could you imagine what I would have felt like knowing that, if I allowed my desperation and just like going after that dollar, I would have been crushed. Because then after, when we started realizing like what's really holding value here right now is that name, Scalp Solutions. That has absolutely not even the business. It's just the name is so broad and captures so much. The hair loss industry is a $43 billion industry. There's someone looking to put a product or service out there, and it needs a good name, and you have it and you own it. So I'm glad that I held on to it, and because of that, is allowed me to negotiate better partnerships and business deals within the hair loss community.
Know your value, know your worth, and know your numbers. Very, very important. I mean, I love the fact that you were always crunching your numbers, and you guys already knew what that number was. And so when there's opportunity that comes by, it's an easy decision for you, right? I'm sure there was probably like, okay, this is nice, 10 mil, but it was easy for you to say no because you knew what you wanted. You knew what the brand was worth. You knew what the company was worth. So yeah, knowing your numbers is very important.
Yeah, for sure. Because what we did was we looked at it like this. This is a service that not a lot of people, it's not a household name. Right now, a hair transplant and wigs, those are a household name. Not many men or women that are suffering from hair loss have an idea of what scalp micropigmentation is. And in this country alone, right, according to the Hair Loss Association, we're talking about 80 million men and women that are suffering from hair loss. And to get that number, these are the people that went to like a doctor and made some informal inquiry for it. So there's probably another 30-40 million that are experiencing hair loss that could use this service. So what we did was, now you take that number and you look at, all right, let's go small with it. Let's take about 1% of them. And if they say, you know what, I need Scalp Solutions, and then you multiply that by the potential, $3,000, $3,500. And when you look at that number, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, and especially if you have something you have it packaged as a franchise where, like if you're putting these out in every single state, like you can get these numbers. So now you look at it and you're like, whoa, that's 1.2 billion. And now you have someone telling you, I'm going to give you 10 million for that, for a idea that I could take, right? Because now they have the funding for it. These guys got the money to make it happen and turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. That's when you're like, oh, hold on. You kind of like stick to your guns. Because let me tell you something. There are some days that I'm like, man, having gone into other sectors of business now, that I'm like, man, like even if I would have got 2 mil, like there's so much that I could have done with these other businesses and still make that money back. But a part of me is like, you know what? I'm glad, we stuck to the gun. And you know what, man? No regrets, brother. No regrets.
No regrets. No, I love that. So you spoke about some other businesses that you're into. So while you're growing this, a brand to 9 figures, 10 figures, you also have other businesses that you're focused on as well. You got a trucking company, logistics. You got the Hudson Valley Teeth White. I mean, there's just some other businesses that you jumped into. Talk to us about like how you had the bandwidth and the time to, spread yourself into other industries, and how
So
were you able to do that?
listen, what ended up happening, brother, I got, I started going after my dreams, right? And I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And now you do one, and then you start embracing the
Mm,
the fear, right? Not of failure, but of those
mm,
lessons. And you're like, I want more. Right?
mm,
It becomes I can't I try to explain this so many times and people look at me like, bro, that just doesn't make sense. Like no one
mm,
should live wanting to experience a failure just so that they can say they've learned from it and
mhm,
wanting to move on. But that's what legit happened to me. So I was like, listen, I got this going, I got this popping. Now let me try products. I tried the products and I was like, I'm already like in the beauty service area. Let me keep it going. What are some things that directly correlate or transcend to the hair loss? So I'm like, all right, we could do some teeth whitening, right? Because you're gonna come in here, look fresh, got a dope hairline. Yo, let's make those
mhm.
pearly whites look good too. Because you
Yeah.
out of here cheesing. Like, let's fix that. So was able to gravitate
Yeah.
into that, and then I started thinking about passive income. So I'm like, okay, so right now I'm doing well, but I'm trading my time for
Mhm,
money. So you start listening to these gurus and how they're like, nah, bro, that's not how it works. Like that's cool. And then I had my friend John Paxton, very successful man, who told me, he was like, yo, those numbers you putting up, they're cute, but you're exchanging your time,
mhm.
for that money, and that's not
If you
how
if
it
you're
works.
not there, how you ain't gonna make no money.
Right. So he was like, that's not how it works. You got to start thinking like the big boy. So I was kind of like in my head, I was like, man, this guy's disrespecting me. Like, yo, I'm busting my ass. But this is how this is how these
100%.
people think, and this is why they're as wealthy as they are. So I was like, you know what? I knew a little bit about the transportation and logistics business. So I said, I'm gonna start a truck company. So I just started buying trucks, putting them out there. Took a little quick little course to just fine tune myself from Alex Burton. Shout out to Alex Burton. And then I was like, all right, now I'm in the transportation and logistics business, and that started popping off, and then it was just like, yeah, man, this is it. And I mean, I still have other
Mhm.
ideas, but I'm at the point now where it's like I can't. I'm spread too thin. So it's like
Mhm.
you also get a little over yourself, and it's kind of like, all
Yeah.
right, I need to start focusing because I'm starting to lose focus and lose tracks on certain things.
Mhm.
So I'm at right now where I'm at. I'm content. Like I have
Yeah.
other ideas that I'm like, man, I can make this pop off, but I just don't know if I have the actual time to even devote to like getting the progress going.
100%. And so I'm curious, man, what's the most important investment lesson that you've learned over the previous years?
Don't be scared to invest in yourself. You have
Mm,
to invest in yourself. Like I know you're probably thinking about like money wise, like what it did, but like you cannot
mm,
be scared to invest into yourself and acquiring the knowledge. Like you
mhm,
shouldn't, because yeah, it might be a nice, big figure in the beginning, but if you're gonna legit apply yourself and you have some passion for whatever industry or whatever career it is that you want, you're gonna make that money back tenfold. And I
mhm.
feel like a lot of people are scared to invest into themselves to acquire the knowledge to become or do whatever it is that they want.
I love that. And what's the talk to us about a recent failure that you just spoke about, like the fear, you want to fail, you want to learn. What's the recent failure or lesson that you learned, and how did you overcome it?
I was in the office yesterday and I was listening I had all your podcasts on track. Like I listened to all your stuff. I'm a
Thank you, appreciate
supporter.
it.
And I remember you asking this question to, I don't want to jack up her business, but she does the t-shirt business, red hair.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Oh,
and you
yes, 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 yeah, yeah.
and you asked her that question, and I was like, man, I got a good one. I was like, I hope he asks me this. Uh,
He came ready.
I was like, because I thought about it and I was like, do I want to put it out there? But I think for what you're doing with the platform to show people like, listen, you want to be ambitious, you want to go out there. But before I tell you what the failure is, people need to understand that entrepreneurship, that looks great on social media, man. Behind the scenes is nothing nice. And you are gonna, although I can make it sound real dope, like it's not a failure, it's a lesson. Sometimes those lessons hurt.
They hurt. Yeah.
They hurt hard. So for me was my transportation and logistics business. I was like, you know what? I got the capital. Let me get in there. You buying these trucks, 30 grand, 60 grand. And when you understand and you know the business, it's kind of like, oh, this is good. Now I just got to buy the truck, set the business up. I got to get a driver, X, Y, Z. And then you start bringing partners on. And I got ahead of myself with trying to help other people, bringing them on into the business and helping, letting them take, leadership responsibilities within the company. And I started losing sight of it. And I ended up having to sell. I had to sell, they ended up buying out my portion of the company, but it was a very big loss. And I attribute that to not focusing on one thing, which is kind of contradictory, right? Because we're talking about you got multiple businesses, but I started learning that if you focused on too much and you don't got the right people in place to help you out, it's so easy for that to just like the carpet to just get pulled right out from under you. So like I got rid of that, and right now I'm just focusing 95% on Scalp Solutions and hair loss industry and everything that I could do within that. And when it's time for that to be bought out, I'll circle back around to the transportation logistics business. But that was a big chin tap for me, brother. Like I was like, damn, man, I can't believe this is happening. But it was a lesson, a very hard one, an incredibly expensive one, but it helped regroup me into like, look, bro, just because you're doing your thing and you understand business, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can just go and run 5 or 6 businesses. Again, sounds dope on social media when these dudes talk about that they're running 8, 9, 12, 15 businesses. I wasn't able to, I couldn't manage it.
No, yeah. And I mean, look, people on social, you can create and be whoever you want on social. So you can say all 10 of these businesses are making 9 figures. Nobody knows how much or what they're really doing. They could all be technically failing, right? But no, thank you for sharing that. And like you said, once you jump back into it, you have that knowledge that you can apply, and you can avoid those failures. You can avoid those challenges, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I don't regret it. I'm glad I did it earlier on. And it wasn't something that happened later on in life, because now I know how I'm gonna attack it, the next time around.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you something that I haven't asked somebody on the podcast yet. At this stage in David's life, at this stage in your life, what is the best thing that you could want for yourself?
The best thing that I could want for myself, happiness. Happiness.
Talk about it.
Happiness. I think we get so caught up, and I say this as Latinos, we're incredibly ambitious, and we see a lot, and we want it, and we always like, why this person has it, why I can't get it, and we go so hard trying to chase something that we think is success, not realizing that you can have all the money that there is and not live a fruitful, happy life. And I spent a lot of time doing what I thought was the right thing to become successful, and I compromised and I sacrificed a lot, and a lot of it was not focusing on myself, doing things that I genuinely needed, like some downtime to myself, maybe go smoke cigar, enjoy life, go for a walk, stuff like that. So like now that's something that I really try to capture, where it's like, listen, money's great, it doesn't have to be everything. And even that itself sometimes is contradicting, because they say people that talk like that are people that don't have money. And I get it. I understand what they mean. But you also have to make some time for yourself to like really sit back and go, yo, am I happy? Did I accomplish what I wanted? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this so that other people could just look at me and feel about me a certain way? So like, that's what I'm on now. I just want to be happy. I got my kids. I just want to be able to chill with them and not really worry about like all the other stuff that's going on. It's incredibly difficult, but that's what I'm trying to strive for right now.
No, I love that. And we can start wrapping this thing up. And listen, David, thank you, for sharing everything. Thank you for being transparent. And, happiness is it's something that I think we take for granted. We spoke about it at the beginning of the podcast episode, right? Like we're so used to just grinding, hustling, going through the day, and we often forget to take a step back and enjoy the fruits of our labor, enjoy our kids, enjoy our family, take those trips or whatever the case is. We take that for granted, and even Latinos, we're very much the type of people that would put other people first before we put ourselves first.
For sure.
And we got to get back to, I get it. Having families and whatnot, having kids, but there's got to be moments in your life where you put your happiness first, and you put you first, and you put what you want to do with your life before other people, right? Because if you're not the best version of yourself, how do you expect to pour into other people when your cup is halfway full?
Yeah, for sure, man. And your energy is everything, man. If you don't have that, there's no way you can be successful at anything. And I think that's just at the basic surface level form right there. You absolutely need that. And like I said, I know it sounds like cliche, but brother, once you start going down that road, and then you realize like, yo, this is what I need, it starts making sense.
100%. Last question I'll ask you, and you probably know what the question is. I always ask my guests, who is one person that needs to be on the Latin Wealth podcast?
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple, but if I had to go in order, I'm gonna give you that one. I would say Jose Rodriguez, the credit dude. I have used his services. He's excuse my language. He's an
go ahead.
He is an incredible wealth of knowledge when it comes to how to hack these credit cards. Your
I've been trying to make that happen. So yeah.
Yeah, you would. Okay, yeah, man. He would be clutch, man. Like I've used his services, definitely helped me out. I mean, I went from having decent credit to amazing credit, and learning how to leverage my business credit to put some things under my business credit, and it was all because of him. I think he will be a great guest on your show, and it'll be good for us, for the culture, for the community.
Yeah, 100%. No, definitely been trying to get him on, so we got to make that happen 100%. Man, once again, thank you for jumping on the podcast. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being transparent, and also thank you for being supportive. One thing I'll say about David is he's always doing the little things to support us, whether it's liking, resharing, commenting. He's reaching out, like, how can I help you? How can I serve? And, from the conversations we've had over the phone, just a phenomenal person. And I hope we continue to build this brotherhood. And I'm sure you have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of ideas. And, one day I'd love to bring our ideas together, collaborate, and, help the culture out, help the community out.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, brother, I love what you're doing. I think it's important for us as a community, as a culture. We definitely need to see, representation is key. And, there's a lot of Latinos out there that we don't realize, but there are some of us out there that we're out there, we're getting it, we're getting to the back. And I know that you need to see us doing it for you to get that drive. And you, with a platform like this, putting us on, that definitely helps, and it serves its purpose. And I want to be able to help however way. But like you said, we're gonna, we'll talk offline, figure out how we could keep servicing our people.
Yeah. Getting to the bag and getting to the bag morally and ethically is huge right now. You know what I'm saying? Just getting the right people on, getting quality people on, So we can make sure that the people that are listening, they're comfortable with, you know, the information, and they can trust the people that we bring on. So that's huge for us as well.
Absolutely. I love it, brother. I can't wait to see what you do with the platform.
Yeah, 100%. With that being said, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you? We're going to link everything in the description of this podcast, but go ahead and talk to the people and let them know where they can find you.
So my website is www.scalpsolutionsny.com. That is, if you are a man or a woman experiencing hair loss and you need to get laced up, fixed up, come check me out. Stop in. We offer free consultations and hairline simulations. If you're wondering what you would look like with the service, you can reach me on social media, on Instagram. That's Scalp Solutions NY. And if you want to send me an email, it's info@scalpsolutionsny.com.
Yep. And I'll link all that in the description of this podcast. One other quick shout out to David. Thank you for showing up with the quality microphone, the camera, and the whole nine, because, bro, I've had some people on that just like hop on the Zoom while they outside and their kids is running around. And I'm like, I'm going through the episode. I'm like, yeah, I'm not putting this out. There ain't no way I'm putting this out.
I can't use this. I can't use
I'm like, I ain't gonna lie. He just wasted my time. I just wasted his time. So I'm not putting this out. This is terrible. So thank you for showing up. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, my brother. Absolutely.
With that being said, you guys know where to find us at Latin Wealth on all platforms. And it's your boy, Chris. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.